A constant refrain Ilya always had in the show is that Shane Hollander is boring. Just like Shane always responds with calling Ilya an asshole, which is always threaded with the funness that lets us know that it is their thing and definitely means way more than the surface statement of exasperation. Boring for Ilya also has so many layers as it pertains to Shane. And whilst an immediate interpretation is that it speaks to the sense of safety that Shane brings Ilya, which is true, to me, it's more than that. Shane Hollander being boring is safety, it's normalcy, it's predictability, it's consistency. All things that Ilya Rozanov desires and appreciates and comes in the bundle that is the man that is falling in love with. And I would like to talk about it. Of course, before I get into all of that, I would like to say a big thank you to everyone who is watching my content, liking it, commenting, sharing. I love this show, as I'm sure if you're watching this video, you probably do as well. And I love talking about it. It's my pocket of joy in this world, in these times we are currently trying to survive in. And if you're familiar with any of my content, you know I like to obsess about the little things in the shows and movies I'm watching. Once again, it makes my brain happy and makes me feel very thankful. Speaking of things that I'm still thankful for, I would like to, of course, express my gratitude to my lovely patrons and YouTube members whose support have been instrumental in helping me continue to make content, especially since I started doing this full time at the start of last year, which was the last time I was in paid employment. And a special shout outs to Lena and Holly for their extra support. You get all the hearts and kisses too. Mwah. If you too would like to support me on Patreon or become a YouTube member to enjoy certain perks, maybe even get a shout out, the link to do so is in the description bar. And with that said, let's come back to boring because I know in the show, Ilya has always called Shane boring so many times. A lot of us remember it. When they were debating where they would have penetrative sex for the first time, and Shane was confused about the location and how things would work out, and Ilya rolls his eyes, calls him boring, and demands for his phone. You have phone, yes, give it. Or is so being boring is genetic line, or when he teases Shane about his boring answers to the city he loves to play in and says everyone read Ilya, considers Shane boring. Boring in that sense has always been a term of endearment from Ilya to Shane, but it also represents the four things that Ilya as a character has always wanted in his own life. Four things that he ends up getting with Shane by virtue of Shane being boring: safety, normalcy, consistency, and predictability. I mean, we can all agree that based off of Ilya's family life, his relationship with his father and his brother, the one thing that Ilya Rozanov cannot lay claim to is a sense of safety. Home isn't safe to him. Instead, it's a place where he has to deal with Alexei either calling him slurs or being on the verge of physically assaulting him while simultaneously mooching off of him to fund his own habits and lifestyle. And then you have Grigory, who does nothing but consistently put this pressure on Ilya to break and mold him into the perfect son, the perfect hockey player, the perfect Russian golden boy, the perfect Rozanov. And when Ilya isn't able to live up to that, we know that Grigory lashes out, verbally abuses him, cuts him down to size, even as Ilya is so desperate to try and do everything he can to get his father to accept him, to love him. And yet, with all of that, he fails. It's why the thought of going back to Russia, going back home for the summer break is something that always consistently, year after year, fills him with such dread because instinctively he's aware that home isn't safe for him. His family isn't a safe space for him. He cannot begin to conceive or even dream of allowing himself to just be in their presence because ultimately all that is going to get him is him feeling used, the slurs and aggression that is thrust his way, and being made to feel small for not living up to their expectations. None of those things, however, are things he associates with Shane, which Shane is allowed to just be. Even when he's at his most flamboyant and being his utterly dickish self, all he gets is Shane fondly calling him an asshole. Just like with Gregory, Shane is the one person who pushes him to be better because they are competitive as fuck. And as rivals, they are the only other person who can consistently encourage the other person to be their best. But there's also the respect and acknowledgement of who Ilya is and what he's capable of and what he's achieved and accomplished, all within a space where he doesn't have to constantly be on edge, trying to protect himself from the hurt that is coming, all without that demand for perfection. With Shane, this brilliant man who is maybe the only other person in their sport who sees him, who gets him, who accepts him, who understands him. I mean, the first time they met, Shane approached him with no guile, just saw a fellow athlete whose work he admires, and he reached out. And Ilya, after realizing that truly Shane Hollander is coming to him without any ulterior motives, just so much goodness, so much kindness, such a good, boring Canadian boy. Even from their first meeting, he knew that with Shane, he gets to feel safe. Yes, it is boring, but Ilya has spent way too long living within the abusive walls of a home that saw his mother seeking escape in death, that the safety, the boringness of Shane Hollander is something he appreciates. Then there's the fact that Shane's boringness is also tied to the normalcy that Ilya so desperately wants for himself and in his own life. From the very first time that he spots Shane at the practice rink, not alone like he is, but with his mother by his side, clearly watching out for him and supporting him, we are made to see that part of that interest he has is in the normalcy that is the life that Shane gets to have, surrounded by a family who loves him, which is easy for Shane to take for granted. But Ilya can never do the same because he knows where he is from and what he is stuck with. I don't think it's an accident that we are always meant to have them mirror each other, especially at the start. And in the mirror of who is by their side, we get to see what Shane has that Ilya clearly desires but doesn't have. Like I said during practice, Shane isn't alone like Ilya is. Yuna is present with him. And of course, when they have their draft, whilst Gregory is also there, the conversation we see that Ilya gets to witness, even as he has to deal with his own father calling him a lazy bum to the face of the GM that had chosen him as Boston's first round pick, it's not the same as what he's seeing with Yuna and David being present for Shane, where they get to talk him up in front of the Montreal GM. Every time Ilya gets a glimpse into Shane's family life, it is to witness the normalcy that can never be his, one that he wishes desperately he could have. And so, whilst the boring is always fun and does speak a lot to him, appreciating who Shane is as a person and as an individual, it also does have the hint of acknowledgement that Shane has a fairly well adjusted life, one where he's loved and seen and being actively raised and taken care of by parents who do love him. Once again, it's not a coincidence that their conversation in the All Stars bathroom alludes to that when Ilya teases Shane about his boringness being genetic after Shane mentions that his father loves and reads the New Yorker. Like, sure, Ilya is teasing Shane in that moment, but it's also him pointing out that Shane's boring ways are ones that are tied and inherited from his father. Maybe it's just me, but as a kid, my dad read the Tribune on Saturdays, and whilst he held on to the parts with the politics and all the other boring news bits, he always gave me the back end of the paper that had the puzzles and the cartoons. So to me, when I heard the mention of David Hollander reading the New Yorker, a magazine that has been in circulation for over 100 years, I had such a clear picture of younger Shane being fed bits of the magazine to read that his father knows he would enjoy, whilst David read the more boring bits. Kind of like me and my dad. I'm sorry, it's a head canon. Maybe it's nothing. I'm probably reaching. But there's a normalcy to family actions and behaviors and interactions that adds to the stability and safety inherent in Shane Hollander, which Ilya is drawn to and which, based off of the story, he now gets to experience by virtue of the fact that he is now part of that same family. He is no longer the outsider looking in. Now he also gets to be a part of the boring family traditions. And we can all assume, actually, we all know that Ilya loves that. And then there's the fact that Shane being boring is also code for Shane being predictable, which I read as being a bit different from Shane being consistent, even though they are kind of similar. But I will get into that in a bit. But as I was saying, Shane's boringness is also tied to his predictability, which is something else that Ilya really appreciates, especially by virtue of the fact that Ilya Rozanov was raised within a family system where things can change in the blink of an eye. An explosion of temper, a quick cutting remark can take him from the flying high of being the number one draft pick, having a conversation with his future boss, who is clearly proud of his team having been able to nab themselves such a rookie, to feeling immensely small at his father putting down his own work ethics and his achievements, also that he can get the chance to lord things over him in public. And this is even worse when you factor in Grigory's rapidly declining mental state, which means that every conversation and interaction with his father is something that exhausts Ilya because he never can tell what to expect. He never can predict what version of his father he would be met with. And because he's stripped of that, it means that he cannot actually make plans. He cannot settle within himself. There's no way he can state with absolute certainty what he can expect because anything can change by virtue of Grigory either losing bits of his memory at an inopportune time or Alexei losing his temper at the worst of times. This is what puts Shane's predictability, his boringness, in such a stark relief, which Ilya very clearly appreciates. He likes the fact that he can make plans, he knows what to expect with Shane, he can count on him and depend on him no matter what. It is why the post tuna melt scene sends him reeling so much and puts him off kilter because he had banked on him slowly getting to know what Shane wants and needs and meeting all of that as much as he can. And the next thing he knows, Shane is leaving and doing the one thing that he would never have been able to predict. He's dating superstar Rose Landry in such a public way that everybody knows. And that is something he never could have expected or predicted would happen. But just as he later discovers, it's all necessary for Shane to come to the realization of who he is and what he wants, which then works to put their relationship on the ground where they get to be more open with each other as they start building said relationship better. And Shane once again returns to being the boring man that Ilya finds himself in love with. And of course, there's the consistency, with which, like I stated earlier, is quite tied to the predictability that Ilya appreciates with Shane. The fact that Shane can be trusted to be Shane, no matter what comes his way. He's stable in a way that grounds Ilya, in a way that ensures that no matter what pops up, it would always be the solid ground that Ilya can count on and trust, which is something that he most certainly needs, considering the family he grew up with and the fact that consistency is something that Grigory never gave his son. It's something that he could not have hoped or dreamed of, even though every child needs it to a degree. It was something that he could not trust to get from his father or his brother. Shane, though, with his little routines, the autistic way in which he craves familiarity and for things to be in their place, to be repeated with zero to no deviation, so the results can be the same without any sort of fluctuation, offers that stability, that certainty that Ilya needs, that Ilya trusts, that Ilya can come back to time and again, which is important when you think about the fact that their relationship becoming real to the both of them, whereby they then agreed to being together, took space over the span of 8 to 9 years. And the only way that they were able to arrive at that point, to get to that moment where they laid down every single barrier and allowed themselves to be honest and vulnerable with each other about what they wanted and how they felt, was to consistently orbit each other for that period, that length of time. For Shane to be himself, is normal, safe, predictable, consistent self. And no matter how many times that Ilya teases him for being boring, we are able to notice that from the very first time he said it, hell, even before he said it, when he shook a younger Shane's hand and later watched him carefully fold his clothes before they had sex for the first time, boring to Ilya simply meant that Shane was home and everything he absolutely wanted. And I don't know about you, but it warms my heart to consider and think about. Always. But of course, these are just my thoughts. I would, as always, love to hear yours. Whether or not you agree with me, please share them in the comments. Like this video, however, if you have watched this far and haven't done so yet, but enjoyed anything, absolutely anything of what I had to say, share it so others can find my channel as well. Or you can check out my gaming or ASMR channels if they sound like something you might potentially, possibly be interested in. I have them both linked in the description bar. I will see you tomorrow with a new video. Until then, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.